Well, it's that time again. Every week we're back here. It's Thursday and it's time for the Plant Power Half Hour with Paula and Lisa. Paula, I'm so excited. We're on week 3 or hour 3 of our Plant Power discussion around ancient oils of the Bible. And we're pulling in scripture, we're pulling in herbs, we're pulling in oils, we're pulling in uses, we're pulling in so many different pieces to this. And we're creating some great content. So for folks who might be watching this recording, check out the series. There's it's going to be about eight segments, maybe 30 minutes each. Some might go a little bit longer than that, but plenty for you to draw from if you're looking at using essential oils. Why not start with the biblical oils? So, Paula, where are we starting today this week?
Oh, this is so fun. I love diving into this. I love researching this and learning it. And then the best part is sharing it with all my favorite people so they can take this knowledge and actually apply it in real life. So I love that today we can talk about, okay, we heard these stories in the Bible, we've heard reference to them. What does that mean before? We talked about that already. But what do we do with it now? Like, what are the extra things that I can apply this, use it today, and help me make that connection back to that scripture story and bring my faith into my daily life throughout my day? Not just Sundays, not just in morning reflection, but all through my day. So I can incorporate God in my life, in my actions, and what I do, and how I influence and inspire all the people around me and how they can and how I can learn from them too. We're
If
going to
we
dive
hit
deep into frankincense, gold, and myrrh today.
Yes. I want to share scripture. You've said scripture. You talked about that, the more how we start our mornings. I grabbed one here, so I want to share that before we kick off the frankincense, myrrh, and gold. We even have some information on gold that we're going to share. Here's the scripture. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And that's from Matthew 2:11. So that's why we're kicking it off. Those are the first 3 oils that we're going to talk about. They're probably the most recognized oils by most people, especially those of the Christian faith, or even the Catholic faith, where we burn the incense in churches to just cleanse and purify the air, prepare the space for the coming of the Lord, or for having his presence within us or within the environment. So kicking it off, frankincense comes from a tree. It's a resin. We gave you a lot of those tidbits in the first 2 episodes, but how do we use it? That's where we're going this week. Where are we starting with
Yeah,
uses?
yeah. We've talked a little bit about using this for skin,
Yeah.
and really it's my go-to for any issue. If I don't know which oil in my collection to use, I'll grab frankincense because I know it's so adaptogenic. It will help me through all kinds of concerns. It'll help me either feel better, it'll help heal the skin. It has so many different properties to use it. So it is my catch-all go-to #1 oil to have on hand and use on a daily basis, but mainly for skin issues. Whenever I have some kind of bump or scrape or concern,
Yeah.
I'm dropping some frankincense on it. Now, for me, I can put frankincense directly on my skin, or I reference how I often start with it at the crown of my head before prayer. That is going to absorb into my scalp or into my skin, and I don't have a reaction to using oils direct. Other people like to dilute their oils when they apply them. Lisa, what do you like to dilute your oils with to slow down your body's process from absorbing it, or to make your oils stretch a little longer?
Yeah.
You can make them last a little bit more when you're using just a drop and some carrier oil to apply that. Which ones do you tend to use with any of your essential oils?
Yeah, I stick with fractionated coconut oil. When we think of coconut oil, we think of the hard glob of coconut oil, but they have something called fractionated coconut oil where it stays in a liquid form. And so that I put that in my coffee. I use a Bulletproof brand. But since I have it on hand, it's what I find that I use the most. Doesn't really have a smell to it, where olive oil, there's so much good information about olive oil. And I overused olive oil for the first 20 plus years, probably 25 years of my life, that I've, gotten, kind of annoyed or disgusted, actually might be the word, by the scent of olive oil. I'll still eat olives, but I just don't like the scent of olive oil. I don't know what it is. All of a sudden, it just started to, it smells rancid to me. I don't know why. And I know that a good amount of olive oils do get rancid. Did you know that you're supposed to keep your olive oil in the refrigerator, or keep any oil, anything that's made with those fatty oils should be stored in the refrigerator to avoid it going rancid? And that's not the case with fractionated coconut oil. It can be stored in a cupboard or in a dark container. And it lasts for a long, 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 long time, and there's no issues with it. But many oils, if they're exposed to sunlight or when they're exposed to air, they can go rancid. And a lot of the olive oils are adulterated, so they're a mixture of different oils, or mixture of olive oils from different countries, and so the purity is always in question. And I honestly don't even know how to buy olive oil anymore. I guess if I were in Italy or if I were in Greece and I was at the distillation plant, I might buy it and try it and see if I had a different experience. But I've gotten a little disenchanted with olive oil, so I shifted into that fractionated coconut oil. I do want to give a warning here. Sometimes we're tempted to mix our essential oils with like hair care products, or throw it in a lotion that we bought at the drugstore. And I give this warning about aloe too, because aloe will penetrate all the layers of the skin, all the layers of the dermis. And so if you're mixing aloe with things that have chemicals in it, how far down do you want it to go? And remember, essential oils are in our bloodstream in under 30 seconds. So anything that you put that essential oil with is going into your bloodstream. So what do you want to go with it? Coconut oil is just coconut oil. It's a fatty oil. It's going to hold the essential oil in place so it doesn't evaporate, and it's going to moisturize the skin, but it's not really going to do anything. It's not going to go into the body. But if it had a bunch of chemicals in it or preservatives in it, then that essential oil is going to carry those things with it into our bloodstream. So there's my warning, and there's my favorite product.
Yeah, I agree. Keeping it simple with just a pure organic coconut oil is going to make it easy. And the fractionated does not have a coconutty scent like the hardened form of coconut oil. It does have a little bit of a scent. You can also use that hardened form, but you're going to have to put a glob in your hand, put the drop of oil with it, and then use your body temperature to warm it up and melt it before you can massage it into that area. Grapeseed oil is another one that has no additional scent to it. So you can easily use that. Almond oil, there's so many other, jojoba oil, different ones like that. But yes, absolutely. Check the expiration dates on those, because those tend to only last a year or two, versus an essential oil will not go bad when it is just by itself. It's not going to go rancid. But when you're combining it, or if you create some rollers and you're diluting it ahead of time, pay attention that you are using those rollers within a year, because otherwise those might be the ones that you're going to smell that rancid scent with it. Speaking of making a roller, that's probably one of my easiest ways to use my essential oils. I have one here that I've just added one of the little roller tops that Young Living sells right to one of my bottles, and you can utilize that. Or when my bottle is getting a little bit empty, then I'll add some carrier oil, a roller top, and then just make it easier to get those last few drops out of the bottle as well. So diluting it and caring for it a little bit differently. Later in this series, we're going to talk about some other oils that you definitely want to dilute. So pay attention to and learn which ones are hot or tingly or spicy on the skin. Frankincense, definitely a gentle one. Myrrh is a gentle one that I use straight up, or I dilute if I'm trying to make my product stretch a little bit longer. What do you like to use frankincense for, Lisa?
It's frankincense skin, because we talked about that already, but it's also stimulating and elevating to the mind.
Mhm.
It kind of opens us up, I'll say, opens us up to possibility. It's a great space to use it in meditation. And I love it for like visualization, meditation, improving, that spiritual connection to God. I think that's where it comes in
Mhm.
a lot for me. I also will use it for areas of the areas that need special attention. I have to avoid using certain words, but if I have an irritation or if I have a need for healing to happen in an area, I will apply it there, especially on the skin. I've even used it internally. We do have a vitality. I don't know if I have it. I don't think I have it. I just have the regular frankincense here, but our white labels have they're safe for internal use, and so I've used frankincense internally under my tongue. In fact, when I was first diagnosed with skin cancer in my 20s, I did an entire year of using essential oil underneath my tongue for the benefits that I had learned about how that works in the body to maintain status quo, maintain a healthy environment in the body, and then kind of keep things at bay that we don't want to be showing up. So those are some of the ways that I've used it.
Mhm. Yeah. How does that frankincense taste?
Yeah, it's an interesting taste. The other thing I would do is chew on the resin, like gum, because you can buy frankincense gum, but it's super expensive. And so rather than buying the gum, I had bought a little bag of the resin. It's, not terribly expensive. And so I thought, well, what would happen if I just chewed on this? And so I chewed and chewed and chewed and chewed, and it doesn't go away. It's not like other gum, and it just like, again, it works on, matches with your saliva and it gets into your bloodstream. And when you're chewing it, you're releasing the oils and the medicinal properties of it. You can even, this is really gross, take it out and set it aside, put it in a little bowl for later and chew on it again. So it's kind of like chewing your cud. But it
A little ABC gum.
yeah, exactly. But it maintains its pliability. It's hard, but then once it mixes with your saliva, it starts to get. So, if you're curious, feel free to try it. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I developed a taste for it that way, very mildly. And then, it was an easy transition for me to actually jump over to putting a drop in my mouth under the tongue. So
Yeah, it's not any flavor I would ever crave. It's not sweet, it's not savory, it's just kind of earthy. Um, but there's different ways you can ingest oil safely. And
yeah,
Young Living, yes, you mentioned the white labels,
vitality.
clearly identifies which ones are safe to ingest. With our white labels, we put the exact same product in our white label versus our colored label. We don't compromise or have a lower quality for the ones that we have designated labels for to use topically. But that frankincense vitality, if you're not crazy about the taste or you don't like dropping the oils under your tongue, it's called sublingual. It's a great way for your body to absorb it that way quickly. You can also put them in the empty veggie capsules and make your own little concoction of essential oils. Put however many drops you want in that capsule, and you can fill the rest with a carrier oil that helps your body absorb it. Once that capsule gets to your stomach, the veggie cap dissolves. You're going to be able to absorb the essential oil in the body as well. So if you don't like the taste of it, that veggie capsule just hides it and down it goes. So it's easy way to use it there too. Um,
Could have done that.
uh,
I always call myself the lazy herbalist. The easiest, fastest way for me is how I do it. And it's true.
but you mentioned earlier about emotions and how that aroma works with our brain. So a lot of times we have when we enter, let's say, a store or someone's home, we have this feeling, like this experience, like we either feel great, we feel comfortable, or we feel uncomfortable. And we don't really even recognize that because that scent and memory trigger happens so fast before we can even say, oh, the scent of that rose eau de toilette reminds me of my grandma and the fragrance perfume that she always had in her bathroom, which we weren't allowed to touch, but we always did anyhow. But that, whenever I am around somebody that has that old scent, I immediately think of that. Now, my grandma was a wonderful lady, and I would remember that pleasantly. But just think about if that scent was something that you maybe didn't associate with something pleasant. You go into an environment, you smell this, and maybe you don't feel as welcome or as comfortable. It's so amazing. The memory and emotion and scent are just tied together magically in that way.
Paula, I have to
So,
talk about the pizza scent. You know, the kids always say, you smell like pizza with the raindrop oils. You smell like pizza. That's what comes to mind when you say that. I know for you, it's your grandma, but for me, it's like, that's how they see me. Oh, yeah, you smell like
mhm,
pizza again.
mhm. And forever that will be in their memories
It will.
too. When they smell that
Pizza, they'll
scent,
think of me.
oh, is that actual pizza or is that Auntie Lisa? Absolutely. So it has this tie to it, but it's fascinating. So in the past, it might bring us to a memory that we react to, but we can also use this to help bring us deeper into our faith, deeper into what we want to experience. That's where I bring frankincense with me whenever I grab my Bible. That's what I'm smelling as I get into scripture. So as I repeat or smell that scent again, it more quickly brings me into scripture. It more quickly brings me into that feeling of having God with me in that way. So it can be a past experience, or it can be something that you're maybe working on as you want to dive deeper. And frankincense and myrrh, such a great one that I would say, yeah, make this scent your connection when you're reading scripture, when you're deeper in prayer, or how you can bring those two together. um, it's so magical how that just elevates the whole process as well.
Yeah, myrrh. Should we talk about myrrh? You know,
Hmm.
myrrh is also a resin. Comes from the tree. When we cut the tree, we call it cries. And so those are tears. Some people say it bleeds, but it forms kind of a teardrop of that liquid that comes out of it. Many of you have seen pine trees that do that same thing. You'll see that big, hard, crusty piece that comes off the pine tree. And that's both how myrrh and frankincense are harvested. We don't have to kill the entire tree to do it. We just bleed the tree or let the tree cry tears of that resin. And then that resin is harvested and distilled. And what we get is that thick, in the case of myrrh, it's a very thick, sticky oil. And it's used, you know, we're maybe making a little bit of a leap here to say that it's used for pregnancy, but it was one of the things that was given to baby Jesus as one of the three gifts. Mary may have used it to heal her wounds. It may have been used on the umbilical cord, or, you know, the healing of the pregnancy experience for both mother and child, but other skin conditions as well. It has an antiseptic property to it. And so it's often found as a base in healing ointments. Back in the days, it was considered, oh, get the myrrh. And the myrrh was like a healing ointment. It wasn't just the myrrh itself, but it was mixed with other things. It was a base to hold other herbs or other herbal extractions in place on the body so that it would last longer and be able to heal and function. And then it also is good for immune support. So there's not a lot of antivirals in the world, things that fight viruses. And there's been a tremendous amount of study on myrrh and how it can support the immune system so that when you're exposed to a virus, it can maybe refrain it from taking hold within our body. So, you know, it's used in so many different medicinal medicinal ways. How about you? How do you
Hmm.
use myrrh?
Um, Same thing. I just like it as part of my spiritual journey. Definitely skin. Using it as a base for creating my own perfumes too.
Mm-hmm.
It has such a deep base note that it's a great lasting oil versus some of the other top notes or lighter notes
I
that you
like it a
can
little better than
combine with it.
patchouli. Yeah, patchouli has that base
Definitely.
note thing, but patchouli, I think of man and masculine. It's like, I don't know. I don't want patchouli in my perfume personally, but myrrh kind of those two are like the
Yeah.
base note. When you say perfume, that's
Hmm.
what comes to mind.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So historically, myrrh was often used when people were in suffering or in deep pain
Yeah.
because it would help them through that journey. Interesting how Jesus was offered some myrrh mixed with wine on the hyssop branch at his crucifixion. Um, and many theologians theorize that he declined that or did not accept that because he didn't want to numb or soften the pain of what he knew he needed to endure.
Or prolong because he knew
Wow.
he's going to die. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Like most people would accept, like, what can you give me that's going to ease this pain? Right? Especially end of life. Versus he's like, nope, this is my journey. This is it. What a powerful statement at the very end as well, too. Um,
It's also used for embalming, right? It was there when he
yes.
when
Mhm.
both was when he was embalmed and then at the time of resurrection when the women came to the tomb when they had heard that he was resurrected. Myrrh was one of the spices that was brought for the body for the healing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So both embalming and healing at birth and death.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. So frankincense, myrrh, and that third gift given to baby Jesus, gold. So
Yeah.
when I think of my nativity scene, I think of, my three little kings, and they all have these little like
Um,
treasure chest kind of
yeah.
box looking things, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think was in those boxes? Was the frankincense in a rock resin form? Was the frankincense in this beautiful oil consistency like we have in a interesting little bottle that could contain it? Same thing with the myrrh. And then also the gold. There are theologians that also have looked into, was the gold what we think of today as this yellow hard metal, or was it actually reference to something else? Lisa?
Yes. Well, we grabbed a book to kind of check that out to see. Um, Dr. David Stewart, he's a PhD. He did a great job with this book and compiling information. And so as Paula and I were looking for sources to, share this we hear pieces of silver. So we know that that was, the hard metal, but gold, there's, people are coming from different places. And so this is one place that people went with it. I'll share what it says. It says tradition has it that Solomon was so impressed with the fragrance and healing properties of the balm oil that he persuaded the queen to send him some seeds and a young some seeds and young trees by which he established a grove near Jericho. Thus the balm of Gilead acquired another name, the balm of Jericho. Some Greek writers around 300 BC mention the two groves of balm trees in the Holy Land present at this time, including the one in Jericho planted by Solomon. These theologians said that a pound of the balm oil sold for 2 pounds of silver, which would be about $150 in today's market. The oil was described as yellow, tenacious, and sticky to the fingers. When a few drops were rubbed into a wound, it was said to bring about rapid healing. A few drops taken internally and applied on the belly were said to strengthen a weakened stomach and was best known as a stomach remedy. So many folks say that it's the balm of Gilead that is gold, and it's called gold because of its color. It was this gold viscous oil that that could help heal, and something that might be used in the birth and healing of Mary. So balm
Mhm.
of Gilead could be gold.
Yeah, it makes sense. And we know that the Bible doesn't spell out what to do with they did with the oils at that time. Just like
Yeah.
when we tell a story and someone says, I got a call, we don't explain. We picked up the phone, we answered it, we said hello. We don't talk those details. But man, it would be so awesome to go back in time and be able to experience and witness how they really use these and to share that with people in a such different way. It was such common knowledge then that they didn't need to explain it. And we've lost a lot of that common knowledge over these thousands of years.
Yeah.
So now things are being researched and coming back to light and to see what did that really mean and where did that come into play. So I love listening to these deeper dives into the scripture and the kind of behind the scenes, like when the movies, when they say behind the scenes, here's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Same thing with the scripture stories. What's the rest of the story? What's between the lines that we need to know?
There's one more piece to this. It says for more than 1600 years, Christian pilgrims visiting the well of it's Mataria, I think it's called, could see living trees that had sheltered Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. But alas, the last one died 400 years ago in the 17th century, leaving no heirs and no offspring. So the balm of Gilead no longer exists. It's not available to us
Mhm,
anymore. It became
mhm.
extinct. Um, It'll be lost in the dark ages of medieval history forever, is what he says here. So I was like, oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
We talk about extinction of animals, but boy, I'm not a pet person. I don't have dogs or cats. But man, when I hear of extinction of plants, it's like, rip my heart out. So
Right,
yeah, we
right.
all have different connections to the planet, and mine kind of lands in the plant world.
Hmm. Well, this has been awesome, Lisa. I'm so
Yeah.
glad we could do this again and look forward to the next session where we can dive a little deeper into a few more of these scripture oils and their uses.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you everybody for joining us. I'll leave you with this last thought. These gifts, therefore, are seen to symbolize Jesus's status as a king, his divine nature, and his eventual suffering and death. They're often mentioned during Christmas time as part of the nativity story. So if you get a chance to experience some of these oils, we encourage you to smell them, put them on you, take advantage of it. If you need help to find them, you can reach out to us in the show notes. I'll put it in the comments. There's a link on where you can download flyers that have uses of all the oils of the Bible. We also put together a book called Sacred Scents that has over 120 different uses of the 10 oils that we're going to talk about in this series. So if you want access to those, we invite you to connect with us, check out the comments below. We also have an e-course. It's 12 emails where we share just little tidbits about each of the oils that we're covering throughout this whole section. So however we can serve you, please reach out, let us know, ask. We're more than happy to help, and come back. See us again. We'll be Tuesday on Living with Favor, my podcast, or Thursday here all month of December. Thanks for joining us, everybody.